many foreigners have family members who pass away and they leave behind a lot of assets in Vietnam. So foreigners, heirs living overseas, concerned about whether they are legally entitled to inherited those assets, especially when they are living overseas and the properties are in Vietnam. So today we will discuss about the fundamental matters relating to inheritance property in Vietnam for foreigners' inheritance. The first question is, can a foreigner's inherit properties in Vietnam?
Okay, the short answer is yes. The law of Vietnam does not prohibit a foreigner to inherit property or asset in Vietnam. The law treats Vietnamese and foreigners quite fairly, equally when it comes to inheritance. So if you are a foreigner and your loved ones, your family members, or a person who have passed away and give you and you are the heir of that person, and that person left properties or asset in Vietnam, so you can be rightfully inherit such asset or property in Vietnam according to the law. But it also we need to check whether you are the rightful heir according to the law. If you are a rightful heir, then you will be able to inherit the property and the asset in Vietnam, even though you are foreigners and the asset or property is in Vietnam.
So can you share a little bit about what kind of legal procedures can foreign heirs proceed to receive the inherited properties?
Okay, so the process for a foreigner or Vietnamese, right, to inherit a property, an asset in Vietnam is there can be several steps. So the first step is that you will need, if you are a foreigner, you will need to, or you are a Vietnamese, would be the same. You need to come to a notary office here in Vietnam to do a declaration of inheritance. So, and you need to present to the notary office several documents to prove that you are the rightful heir and you have the right to inherit the property or the asset. Those documents can be first the document to prove that the person has passed away, the person has already deceased, right? So that can be like birth certificate, death certificate of that person to prove that the person has passed away. Then document proving that the person who has passed away is the owner of the asset that you want to declare to inherit, right? For example, if the person left a house in Vietnam, you need to provide the pin book, the title, right? The land, the house ownership ownership certificate of the property, and in that document it needs to show that the person who has passed away is the owner. Then you need to provide document to prove that you are the rightful heir of the deceased person. For example, you can provide your birth certificate if the person who has passed away is your parents. Maybe in your birth certificate can show that you are the son or the daughter of that person, or some other document, maybe a confirmation of your country government confirming that you have the relationship with that person. And according to the law, you are the law of Vietnam. According to the law of Vietnam, you are the rightful heir of the person who has passed away. then with all the document presented, you will be able to declare the inheritance, to inherit the property, the asset in Vietnam. And after that, the law require you to do a publication. You need to declare, right, that you are in the process of inheriting the asset, the property, right? You need to public for the public to know that you are in the process of inheriting the property, the asset in Vietnam. The reason is that maybe there are some other heir of the rightful heir that we don't know, that you don't know, and they may have the right to also inherit the property. So when you declare the inheritance, you need to public that information, and within a certain period according to the law, if there is nobody come to dispute, or nobody come to claim their inheritance, then you will be able to inherit the property, the asset.
So understand the legal procedure is that, but some of the heirs, they're concerned about, like, they are living overseas and it's very hard for them to travel to Vietnam to complete the legal procedures. So some of them are concerned that whether or not they are required to travel to Vietnam to directly or impersonally complete the procedures, or they can do that through a legal representative or authorized representative.
According to the law, the person can authorize another person in Vietnam to complete the process. Maybe they only need to come to Vietnam for one time, come to a notary office to do all the to make a POA to a person in Vietnam, maybe to a lawyer in Vietnam to support them, or maybe they can do authorization from abroad. They can come to the Vietnamese embassy or consulate in their country to request for authorization to a person in Vietnam. But in practice, not all embassy or consulate of Vietnam will provide or will support you with that. So you will need to check with the embassy or the consulate in your own country, Vietnamese embassy or consulate in your own country, whether they will support you to make a POA to a person, to authorize a person in Vietnam to do the process of declaration of your asset, right? So normally you to make it efficient, you should come to Vietnam one time to do a POA to provide authorization to a person in Vietnam, for example, a lawyer, to support you completing the whole process.
So in practice, the procedure is not always run smoothly, especially in case that there are another party, they are control and they take over their properties. So, and they refuse to distribute the property to the heirs. So can you share more? What can they do to protect their rights and to enforce the right with their properties?
Yeah, I think a case like this is quite common. According to our own experience, there are cases where the heir who are foreigners who are overseas Vietnamese coming to Vietnam to declare their inheritance of a property in Vietnam, to find out that the property is controlled or managed by another person, some other people, and they are not, right? They refuse to support, to give up their control. Maybe they are also an heir, or maybe they are not, but they don't. They keep on controlling the property, right? They don't support or cooperate with the heir to do the declaration, and it will be quite frustrating. But the law have the mechanism to protect them. They can sue the other person, to sue the other heir, or they can sue the the person who is controlling the property to the court, and the court will resolve the case according to the law, and after that they can use the court decision to declare their inheritance of the asset of the property.
So finally, even after they successfully receive the access, but some of the heirs, they are concerned, they are living abroad, so how can they transfer the assets overseas? And especially in case the properties is the real estate, and they successfully sells to the vendors, so how can they transfer the money to their bank account
in their own country, right?
Yeah.
So in Vietnam, it is not easy to transfer money out of Vietnam. The Vietnamese law is very strict on allowing people transferring money out of Vietnam. There are only certain cases where people can transfer money out of Vietnam. But fortunately, transferring money out of Vietnam due to distributing asset from inheritance is one of the case where a person can transfer money out of Vietnam. Therefore, if you inherit a property, a house, an apartment or land, and you sell that property, you prove that this money is from the selling of the property that you inherit, then you can work with the bank to transfer that money to the bank account in your own country. And we have done quite a few cases like that, and the bank normally will support the heirs to do that. So it's not a big issue. There's one note is that regarding property, there are certain property that foreigner cannot own, right? So for example, land foreigner cannot own. You cannot own lands you right in Vietnam. For example, if you have your mother is Vietnamese or your father is Vietnamese citizen, but you are not, right? And your mother or your parent died and left a land to you. You are a foreigner. You cannot get the pink book under your name after you inherit that, but you can sell it, and then you can take that money to transfer to your bank account in your own country.
So finally, even after successfully inheriting assets, many heirs, they are concerning about how can they transfer the money from inheriting the properties to their bank account in their own country, especially in case of inherited properties is real estate, and when they sell, how can they transfer back the money to the bank account?
Yeah, so the question is, how can they move the asset out of Vietnam, right? After they successfully inherit the property, the asset in Vietnam, how can they take that and bring it to their own country because they are foreigners? So according to the law, you cannot if the property is in a movable asset, right? You might be able to bring the asset out of Vietnam physically, but normally people would try to sell the asset, and for most cases, the property that they inherit would be real estate, right? Would be properties, for example, houses, apartments, or lands. And what they would do is normally they will try to sell the asset, sell the property, and take the money, and then bring the money to their own country. But you cannot just physically bring money out of Vietnam, right? According to the law, that is not allowed. You can only bring up to like 5,000 USD out of Vietnam. Therefore, normally people would try to transfer money out of Vietnam. And according to the law, if you inherit an asset and then you sell it, and you can prove that the money that you get is from selling an asset, a property that you inherit, then you are able to transfer that money out of Vietnam. And you can just come to any bank and provide documents proving that the money that you got is from selling your property, and provide all the inheritance documents to the bank, and they will help you to process the transfer of money from Vietnam to your bank account in your own country. And there's one note is that in Vietnam, foreigners are not allowed to own some type of properties. For example, land. Foreigners cannot own land. So you can inherit, but after you have inherited the property, you cannot register your name as the owner. So you will need to sell it. And after you sell it, you can transfer money out of Vietnam.
Okay, thank you so much for spending time today.